So Cedar, we'll start with Cedar. Um, Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. As I said in the introduction, you're in just finished your residency with the first two courses, and you're on your first online course. But you're no stranger to this kind of work because you're an instructional designer. So, I would love to know what your impressions are of the MEEK program. I mean, we're here joined by students who are considering perhaps joining us. So, what might be your impressions? What's it like to be in your first online course with us? What can you teach us? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me along to chat about this stuff. I am a kind of hopeless nerd who really enjoys talking about learning design. So this was a great excuse to do exactly that. First impressions of the MEEK program so far, and honestly, the thing that drew me to it in the beginning is the really kind of thoughtful design and how the whole program is laid out. I've really appreciated both the kind of macro level program design, the way that the residents, and maybe I'll get a chance to talk about this a little bit more later, but the way that you lay out the residency into the online courses. But on a more micro level, so far in the courses, there's been this really wonderful blend of theory and application, theory and practice, which has been huge. And I'm a huge sucker for this holistic approach to student engagement, this holistic approach to learning. And I think that that's one of the things that has like stood out as a first impression to me as I've been going through this program. I feel like you really encourage students to bring their whole selves. You really encourage faculty to have a lot of different kind of aspects and ways of engaging with the course material, ways of kind of demonstrating knowledge. So yeah, that I think that's my brief summary anyway.
Oh, I'm so glad we're recording this. I love it. But it's interesting. There's that old saying, and I don't know if I can attribute it to the right person, but it's something like, you wouldn't want to go to a restaurant and eat the menu. And that's sometimes what happens with theory only courses. And so much of environmental education is theory, and we're always looking to solve some problems. And yet there's also this important aspect, as you said, the applied aspect, the ability to really bring our full selves into this work, especially as we're, mature people coming together in graduate studies. And yeah, and the time is ripe for us to really uh, feel encouraged and confident to bring who we are to the work. Um, so has anything surprised you? Anything at all surprised you so far, or um, you know, something
Yeah,
significant or
I
challenging or
totally. I think there's been a few pieces of this that have really surprised me. Like I said, I kind of picked this program intentionally because I was looking at sort of the high level structure of it.
yeah,
But one of the things that really surprised me, especially when I got to the residency, and I know we kind of actually started our courses, was the level of emotional engagement. I think, we talk a lot, or I kind of am looking for this more holistic approach to education. Almost you call it like I've seen it called like a medicine wheel approach, where you have, the intellectual and the emotional and the physical and the spiritual, all kind of aspects in a given course. The emotional engagement, especially from faculty, from students, from all the support staff, everyone felt really bought in and kind of very earnestly engaging with the material, which was awesome. And I think it's really helped create a kind of learning community going into the online courses, which is why I was so interested in doing a program that had like a residency up front and then moved into the online, because it makes it so much easier because you've already built connections with people. You've already kind of got over the awkwardness of getting to know your classmates,
yeah.
because you had that intensive period where basically for a month straight you're with only these people and you're kind of forging those connections and getting to understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, we always used to say it was kind of the secret sauce or something, but it is really true, how important it is to have the forensics of, face to face, so that we build these relationships. And then later we've got margins of forgiveness for, if we can seem curt online or shorter when we're typing messages. And, Yeah, I think that's really the success of many of the programs at railroads, that we do those short residencies, and the way that they're starting, the way that we start is in person. So yeah, I'm glad that you picked that up. That's so great. But also, I love this idea of people genuinely being engaged, because I feel that too. And I just wonder if that's what it feels like from you guys coming in. Yeah. And so just one other quick, because this is about education. So what's working you right now? What's I mean, you're balancing, you went back and you're balancing your work and online learning, and how's that for you, Cedar?
It's been good. It's certainly been an adjustment coming out of residency, which was, it's a very intensive experience, right? We're
Yeah.
working with a small group of people. You're seeing the same people every day. You're in person,
Yeah.
and then transitioning back into a sort of an online learning environment, which typically I've had, as much as I spend my day job designing a lot of them, uh, I have not had the best record with kind of being able to engage. But I think having the built up connection with the people in my cohort already
Mhm.
not only makes it easier, like you're saying, like gives a little more buffer forgiveness, but also makes me want to engage more fully. I don't, there's not as much of that hesitancy around
Yeah.
sharing some of my thoughts, sharing my opinions in the online course environment that, you might otherwise feel, which is really good.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's always going to be a lot of work doing both a graduate degree and working full time. Having family life, just all of the
Mhm.
thousand complications that come with being an adult in our current world. But
Mhm.
it definitely feels very doable, and I think so far the pace of delivery has been totally manageable.
So good. That's so good to hear. I mean, I do know the residencies are intense, and by design for sure. We've got a lot to do in a short period of time. But I'm also imagining that you're learning not only content, but as a designer, you're watching, the structure as you go
One thousand
along, and
percent.
yeah,
Yeah.
and critiquing and making notes and stealing, and which
Oh
we all.
yeah.
That's why I
I
think I love learning. I keep learning because I'm learning content, but I'm also learning, now, how did this work? And maybe we'd sequence it this way. And anyways, thanks so much. That's
yeah.
good to hear. But stick around. We've got a few more things to talk about. Thanks.
Of course.
I'm going to jump to Andrew because I know Andrew's got to get back to class in a few minutes. So, Christy, do you mind? I'm going to take a leap and go to Andrew because I'm just really aware that we were lucky to borrow him. Um, so, Andrew, my dear, K to 12 educator, designing climate resilient schools with the earth in mind. You've just completed your degree requirements. You have graduated, and you will be crossing the threshold of the stage in your robes in the next few weeks. So, yay, hooray!
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so maybe tell us a wee bit about your research and what's been happening for you since you've completed. Any highlights, anything that you took away that's starting to show up now that the school year has started?
Okay. My research was based on could we design a school to think to function like a tree? And so we sort of I was teaching, I did a maker space with a group of I think we had 19 students and staff. And we gathered for the day to sort of redesign the school using things like popsicle sticks and all sorts of found materials, which could be considered junk, but got repurposed very quickly into parts of a school. And so we worked to do that as sort of a prototype of a framework that the school district could use in the future. And since that's happened, um, I've met, I'm starting to meet with, we have a district climate resilience group, and we're trying to do different climate initiatives. And so I'm taking the learning that I did in my program, and I'm now actually applying it. And we're hoping um, to do another makerspace with more student involvement and the student body, and then actually branch out and do it. Um, it can start really small. Like we had a forested area that we removed the blackberries from and have mulched it, and it's now an outdoor learning space. And I actually have students in, I don't know, 15 minutes or so are going to be going to mulch that and add more nutrients into the soil.
Really? Like that's from just when we did our makerspace this
Yeah,
spring? Oh, that's
yeah.
fantastic. So it's
Um,
starting to happen.
it's starting to happen, and part of it for us was just doing it and getting the
Right. Yeah.
approval we needed, and then asking for forgiveness later.
Well, some of your administrators were jumping up and down. They were
Yeah.
part
Oh
of
yeah.
that day. Like you had librarians and teachers and
Yeah.
also others in there making these projects of resilient schools. And I mean, it was a beautiful day. I got to be there. It was amazing. And the connections that were made were so profound. Like that one young student at the end who said, "This is empowering." Like to
Yeah.
think that we can make a change at our own school, which was like kind of a desert out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and specifically that forest has typically been off limits because you can't access it. But we've now, our administration seeing the work that we're doing is adding, like we're allowed to use the mulched area of it, which is huge for the kids.
Yeah.
Um, and part of my design is also to look at sort of as for the school in terms of trees. I counted and we have a massive school property and I think we have like 8 trees. And so when there's a heat dome, all of the kids hover in those areas. So having a place like a forest where kids can actually go hang out is really, it's a beautiful thing for kids to connect. So, and those are all things that sort of came out of my research and came out of the program at Royal Roads. And yeah, it's sort of, it's nice to hear sort of Cedar and all of the different courses that you're taking there, and seeing the other side of what can happen. And I also know that I'm one of only like one person of our whole group, and all of us are doing different, really amazing projects that are
Mm.
sort of informative for the self and also really positive for the environment.
Mhm. Well, I love that what you learned. See, this is how I imagine the world might be one day, that what we're learning, we get to outpour, we get to share, like it's part of our giveaway. It's not that we get to get smart and lock away all our smartness and say, oh, I have a master's degree. It's like, oh, I've learned this. And so I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to give you what
Yeah,
I've learned. And you did that so beautifully with your students and set that day up so beautifully, but also to make art, like to play and make art and to use our deep imaginations to, just to see what's possible for the
yeah,
world and to have kids as part of that with their voice so clearly heard. I just remember one of the administrators really so excited. He said, "This is what we've been trying to do. We
yeah,
just didn't know how to do it." So I'm glad to
yeah,
hear you're going to do some more maker because that's a
yeah.
wonderful way to involve everybody and work in teams and it pushes your edges. That's one of those
Yeah.
edgy things. Yeah.
Well, it's all about like in the systems theory course that I took, I was realizing that if I'm wanting to make change within our school district, I actually have to talk to both district and school and students, and you need to involve everybody. And so that was really powerful learning to sort of think about that in terms of, our school is nestled within a bunch of different other systems, and we need to function in those.
Yeah.
And some of them are systems that are deeply entrenched with people who have done it their way for 15 or 20 years. And so how do you nudge that forward? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Were you surprised by any of the results that came from that day, any of the recommendations? I mean, you'd done an awful lot of work going in and you had some ideas of what you thought people would focus on, but was there anything that surprised you on the day when the projects were presented to us?
Yeah, I'd say our our playground and our field area, we have a field that gets used only part of the year because if anytime it rains, the field gets wet and kids can't use it. And how much part of the school identity that was for students,
Mm.
and just the different creative things of how we could use a playground, in different ways to help sort of, it could harvest water or it could provide shelter, or there's different ways that we could interact with that. And I think those were kind of surprising. I looked at it from, I know our school district had a big sustainability plan, and they had their top 3 ideas were to electrify our buses, change our schools over to heat pumps, and then use like carbon neutral paper. That was their big, amazing ideas. And over the course of the day, the students and participants just blew that out of the water in terms of using the rooftop for gardens and solar and wind and restoring our stream and creating places for shade and all of these other things that weren't even on the district's radar. And I think that now that we can see that, and now that they're coming through those different programs, they can start to see how they impact that.
Yeah.
And we ended up also having to pivot just based in terms of how that research worked. And I ended up pulling in some high school students. And that was a really lovely surprise because I work with grade 6 to 8s. So having high school students come back as part of their legacy was also a really positive thing. And so looking at how to sort of figure out your different edges and how to work with those. I'm hoping that when we do it again, we'll also invite the neighborhood as well to come
That's a
join.
great idea. Yeah, because it came up with community gardens, right? When
Yeah,
school's out, if you're going to grow food, you need people to tend those gardens.
yeah.
But, you know, I love this idea too, because there's no experts in the room. Everyone's an expert. I mean, often we don't look to the school itself, you know, to the student population to say, oh, these are the people on the ground that know better about what happens during a heat dome. Instead, we try to make these decisions at higher levels. And what's so beautiful about this is it's a force for democracy. It's just so great that everyone can show up. And I can't forget your introduction in your proposal where you show the broken thermometers in the school on the heat dome. They actually broke. It
Yeah.
was so hot in the schools. And even on the day when we did Maker, there was some heat thing was stuck on in the library and it was like April or something. And we were just sweltering. But, you
Yeah.
know, there's so many poor systems and yet we say we want to make these beautiful learning spaces. So, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
glad you're doing this work, Andrew. This just makes me so happy for your students
Mhm.
and for
Yeah.
you, and that this mattered in some way. You know, it's not just something on a shelf somewhere, right? So, you know, our
Yeah, and I'd
motto
say,
is living our learning.
yeah, and this is definitely the launching pad for that learning and sort of
Yeah,
figuring it out. And I'd say that I still don't know what I want to do with it, but we're gonna keep going in that
keep
direction.
going. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. And I know we have just, you have to head off, so I'll just say thanks so
I
much.
have to go get wheelbarrows and shovels ready.
Can
So
I ask you one quick question? What advice might you give somebody coming into Meek?
the advice would be to be aware of it's not just an academic sort of thing. And so be aware of your whole self and make sure that you're taking care of that. Getting things like exercise and counseling and those sorts of support services and reaching out to your instructors too to sort of get the support that you need. I think Royal Roads is a very caring place to be a student at. And you just have to have those systems set up because it is this course I think is different than other master's courses in that there's a lot of emotional and um, other sorts of sides to it that you want to connect in and make sure that you're able to do the best work that you can do. But it is you do need to look at your whole self. It's not just an academic thing. It's an intellectual, it's a mental, there's spiritual elements for some people. It all pulls it together. And so yeah, making sure that you
Well,
take
it's high time. It's high time we did this, and that fits with what Cedar was saying too, you know, that that's kind of the surprise at the beginning and but this holistic approach. So yay, we say yay for that. I mean, it's a big ask, but I think it's time not just to be lopsidedly looking only at our fine intelligence of our intellect and look at our other intelligences too, of our bodies and souls and you know, emotions. Yep. So thanks.
it's all worth it at the end. So
Yeah, there you go. And I'll see you on the stage. Okay.
can't wait. I'll see you
Uh,
there.
okay, so thank you so much, Andrew, and over to you, Christy. So I don't know. I mean, I just wrote educational leader because, you know, you have been in higher ed in the US and created some incredible organizations that supported faculty professional development and learning. And I mean, you're no stranger to university life. And now you're here with us in our at our university. And And you're really coming to the end of your coursework. I mean, you're in a directed study right now, and I know it's really significant for you. And you're just about to turn toward your research. So I just wanted to know, I guess it would be like midstream in the program, but it kind of feels like an ending with all the course materials. And so as you're walking toward this edge of your research journey, just to use edge one more time, what's happening for you? You're working on topics that we've been touching on a little bit, emotional topics. You're looking at good grief. I mean, you're looking at some, gratitude, but also grief, the importance of both in our lives. So what might you have
Yes.
to say, madam? Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, this program has been what my soul's been searching for so long, throughout 20 years of academia. And what I felt in my previous academic life was this disconnect between the mind and the heart and the soul. And this is a program that really helps you weave it all together, which is so beautiful. And what I found, I was working with graduate students and faculty from interdisciplinary programs at the Institute on the Environment at the University of Minnesota. So, all people that were extremely dedicated to solving the climate crisis, the poly crisis that we're in, but we're doing it from fluorescent cubicles where I found for myself that I didn't have an intimate relationship with nature. And so there was this disconnect. And originally, I wanted to research the metamorphosis of a butterfly and how we could apply that to our personal lives. And I feel like the disillusion that happens in the chrysalis is kind of what I'm in by studying grief, and that it's so necessary with the climate crisis. Perhaps the most essential skill we have for the future is to have good grief and to be able to really fully go into it, for the sake of ourselves, for the sake of our intimacy and connection with the more than human world. And we had a ritual, a ceremony in our eco-psychology class this summer where we really went into grief. And I was just amazed when I went home to play with my 2-year-old. My capacity for joy was so much more extensive after having had that deep release of grief. And so I just see it as absolutely essential, as something we need to teach everyone, and that we long for culturally. Like it's just something that's been missed. We used to have intact cultures that would help us through the grieving process and know that it was part of our full vitality and aliveness. And I think that's so much of what many of us are searching for in the Meek program, is that sense of aliveness and how can we contribute to the world.
Oh, I'm really glad this is recorded. So well said. That's so well said. I mean, I was just thinking when you were talking about Francis Weller, one of our favorite authors in the program and one of my beloved teachers, where he says, on one hand, you've got gratitude, the gratitude for being alive, and the other hand is grief. Like this is kind of the prayer, is that, without absolutely being able to express in a contained and, witnessed way our grief and move through it. So it doesn't hold us back and doesn't put us into denial or paralysis or privatizing our pain. It brings up this aliveness. It allows us to be fully contributive. It allows us to actually see the world with new eyes of possibility and know that we can do something together, at least for a time until we go back into it. But it's such a healthy move to turn toward our full climate range of emotion, as it were, including outrage and, some of our fears, because this is also, part of our humanness, and it
Right.
should be welcomed. And I think that's what we're trying to do in much of this program is, as we've talked about, this holistic approach. But it's very ironic. I mean, we even had environmental programs that never went outside. Like that irony just exists everywhere. And so we don't want that. We want to try to mend some of these divides and this kind of increased polarization and divisiveness that's happening in the world by, repairing and coming together. But I can truly say that without the inner work, we can't do the outer work. We just can't. People burn out and they just can't take it. They don't have the heart and soul for it if they can't keep that part of themselves moving. And well, as Francis Weller says, clean, we keep cleaning.
Soul hygiene.
Soul hygiene. I know, as if that's a word most people know on a webinar. Anyway, yeah, no, that's very good. And I love the thought that I think it was Khalil Gibran in The Prophet when he said, sorrow carves our heart out so we can experience more joy. And I love that idea of when you'd actually wept and wept deeply for, the pain for the world, the planet. And then you went home and you had this incredible experience with Teddy. Yeah, so good with your young tot. Yes, so good. So you're managing a lot. You're a young mother and you're doing your studies and you're in a new country and all of these things. So how are you doing now as you're turning toward your research? How is it for you? What feels really, I mean, I've heard what you said feels really relevant. Is this meeting your expectations? Is this helping you to move into these new places in your life, do you think?
Definitely. Like I think this is a program that helps you really tune into your soul's calling. And there were so many things in my life that were really obvious, but I just disregarded them. Like I used to write obituaries when I was a teenager and a young adult for the local newspaper. And I loved that. That was my favorite job because you're just constantly tuned into the incredible lives people have had, but also the sadness. And so that coming full circle, I think, has happened so many times to me in this program where it's like, aha, yes, this is part of the path. This is part of the path. And so it's just really beautiful that there is this range within the program to explore that. I feel like most academic programs, they're trying to get you through the hoops of a predetermined curriculum. And this program is really beautiful at finding out what is the curriculum that's needed for you. And it's been so beautiful to have you tailor and see that. Sometimes Hillary is able to point out for people things that they're not able to see during residency, and being able to weave that into their lives in powerful ways. And that certainly happened for me professionally as well as personally as a mother.
Well, and also we know the flip side of grief is love. Like you only grieve
Yes.
loved and lost or what you're losing. So we know that this is really at the bottom of the day. We're talking about love when we're talking about grief. Oh, Christy Kremers, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining today. I'm glad this is all being recorded. I'm so excited. I mean, Okay, so I just might ask the last question to both you and Cedar, and then I'll let you guys go. But any advice, Cedar, for someone coming in? What might you say to them?
Yeah, I thought about this quite a bit actually in the lead up to this, and I think my piece of advice is not particularly like it's something that I feel like is true of all education, but is sort of doubly true with the NEEC program, which is you'll get more out of it if you put more of yourself into it. If you come in with an open mind, if you come in with a willingness to engage deeply and emotionally and have complex, multifaceted experiences, I think that you are going to find a much deeper level of engagement, but also a much deeper level of learning. I think I'm a big advocate for cringe is dead. So let's just be so earnest and engage this kind of as fully as we can. And if everyone, and it's sort of, the residency does kind of break you down into doing that, which is a wonderful aspect of it. But the more you the more you come in prepared to do that, the better time you're going to have.
Oh, I either want to join the band, Cringe is Dead, or I want a t-shirt for sure. So I might be printing up some t-shirts, Cedar. I love that. Cringe is Dead. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it's a stretch, right? This is it. I love it. Thank you for that wisdom. And Christy, what advice might you give someone considering Meek.
Yes, very much in alignment with what you said, Cedar. Uh, let your full self show up and become undone. Yeah, and not to be afraid of that. Because we need that. We need to tune into something real. And the earnestness that Cedar said, like just being your full self. The gift of this program is that you get to really tap in to a unique portal. Like this is such a unique program in academia where you get to really delve into the full bandwidth of yourself, your connection with the more than human world, and really try to dial into what are you being called to do? How can you be of service?
Yeah.
And
Good.
letting that guide you.
Yeah, and sometimes before we get going with the doing and all this doing that's required of us, we need some undoing. It's like making needs sometimes remaking before we can go forward. So there's wisdom in that. Thank you so much. I see Glenn Teelman here, who's one of our instructors. He's from our 508 this summer. Hey, Glenn, nice to see you from Prince George. Lovely. So any words of wisdom here to add to the pile?
No, just that I think Aurora Rhodes has been doing, online and blended learning for a long time, and so it was a good experience as an instructor, and lucked out with a really amazing group of students in the summer residency program and the course that went with it, and yeah, grateful for the opportunity. The campus itself, what an amazing place to learn.
Yeah.
I'm still reeling over my introduction to that 800-year-old Douglas fir tree, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience, and I think lots of generosity in the way that the students approached the work. The students seem to come from diverse backgrounds. I came in expecting a whole group of K to 12 educators, and that was actually just the minority in the room. So that diversity translated to a really rich learning community that was developed very quickly, and friendships and colleagues. So it was really good.
Thanks, Glenn. Okay, well, we'll move on because we have a few minutes now to go through the program and any questions that may be showing up in the chat. Thanks again, Cedar and Christy. And if you want to stick around, great. But I'll just talk about the program now, which is old hat to you guys. So thanks again, and I'll be in touch with you. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, lovely to see you. So generous, as Glenn said. So the program structure, thanks, Rhett. Are there any questions in the chat at all that have come up? Do you know?
Do you guys see the chat when I'm sharing the screen here?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, just from Cedar, reiterating that she says I should also say all of this emotional engagement doesn't come at the cost of academic rigor either. It really enhances it. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if you just advance the slide, I'll carry on. Thanks. Yeah. There we go. So, oops, if we can just go back one more. Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. So as you've just heard, our program is a blended program, so it includes both online and on campus. Next slide, please. And there are many paths in the MEEC program. We call it the MEEC program, the MA in Environmental Education and Communication. We're fond of the acronyms here. So the first 3 courses comprise a graduate certificate in what we call EEC, Environmental Ed and Communication. And then all the coursework comprises, it's 24 credits, comprise the diploma in EEC. Or you can continue on with a final thesis or major research project and elective, which is 36 credits all told for the full Masters of Arts in EEC. Next slide, please. So these are the courses. The first 2, 500 and 508, are the first residency on campus. 508 is what Glenn was teaching this summer, learning theory and program design. And he joined his colleague, Dr. Liza Ireland, for deepening ecological awareness and understanding. And it is such a beautiful campus. What a great introduction to this program. Then the first online course is 503. It's Foundations in Environmental Communication, which is what Cedar's in right now. And then we move into systems perspective. We do a research course, 620, a beautiful worldviews and environmental ethics course with Bob Cull. Then you come back to your second residency, and Eco 586, the Biosphere and Sustainability, Socio-Ecological Justice, is um, um, is a field school actually up in the Broughton Archipelago. So you go for a week up to the Broughton and learn on those lands and learn from the Indigenous peoples and the community up there. And that's with Ashley Akins, who is a National Geographic explorer. And she's just an amazing person who has her own field school in Peru. So she's really a wonderful person to learn alongside. And then 509 is the course I teach, Ecopsychology at the Intersection of Theory and Practice, where we deepen our interconnectedness with the natural world and really immerse ourselves in the context of that when we're on campus. And look at a full, as I say, climate range of emotion, be able to keep ourselves really healthy as we're moving out into the world to address what's coming and what the world needs right now. And then the completion is either a thesis, which is 12 credits, or a major research project we call MRP with an elective. So a 9-credit project and an elective, and that gets you your 36 credits for the whole program. Next slide, please. Right. So this is the format. It's the first certificate, 3 months, 3 courses, 9 credits. The diploma is 1 year, all coursework, 24 credits. And the MA is 2 years and a little bit, 36 credits. And there's 2 3-week on-campus residencies if you're doing the diploma or the MA. Next slide, please. Right. So standard admission into the course is, a 4-year undergrad in a related field with a GPA of about a B from a recognized post-secondary, and at least a couple of years of relevant work or volunteer experience, or a kind of combination of both is also always, welcome. So if you don't actually meet the GPA requirement, you'd be required to take our wonderful course, Academic Writing and Critical Thinking, and come out with a B there, a minimum B. It's really highly recommended for all students, though, because you can be a great writer, and academic writing is a little bit different than other forms of writing. So it's a really great way to tune up and have that in your toolkit, as it were. So when you come to the learning and some of the intensity of that, you're not wrestling with the writing or the conventions, you're wrestling with ideas, which is what we want. Next slide, please. And we're pretty famous for our flexible admissions, as I said at the beginning. So if you don't meet the standard admissions requirements, we're normally looking for about 6 years of real world experience. Can be a combination of education, formal, informal experience, work experience, volunteer experience. I mean, we really look at each individual on a case-by-case basis. And sometimes we have conversations just to find out a little bit more about you. So generally speaking, someone coming in with a flexi admissions would take the academic writing and critical thinking. Next slide, please. So your application process includes a small online fee to get started. We require official transcripts from any post-secondary institutions, and they have to come directly from those institutions to be official. A detailed resume or CV. And, this is really important that you kind of ring your own bell, that you really say what you're interested in, what you've been doing, anything that you've had your hand in, because sometimes it'll seem like an insignificant thing, but it could be the thing that really starts to connect the dots for someone who's reading your file. So don't shortchange yourself there, and try not to use so much a boilerplate as you really speak to what it is you've done and where you've been. you need to write a personal statement, and that's really our favorite part. It's a, couple of pages about why you and why now and what will you do with this degree and what are your hopes for it. And, it's just a great place to kind of lay your thinking down and reflect upon that and send it in to us, because sometimes that can be the start of a great conversation we have. And then 2 letters of reference. And we like to have one that, if possible, could be from post-secondary, from a former learning, or someone that you work with or you volunteer with. It really shouldn't be a friend. Our friends say lovely things about us, but we'd really like to hear from people that you've worked with, volunteered with, or learned alongside. And, admissions are wonderful people. They really help, and they help keep you going in this process. But just get that online application started, and you can start to fill in the documents as they arrive. So don't wait to do something like that so that you get your place in the program. So yeah, it can be an ongoing kind of process for some time. Next slide, please. Right, so the key dates to remember are, next intake is July 8, 2025. And we say our application deadline is April 8, 2025, but we often extend that into May and June just because sometimes people are a little bit slow to go. But I can tell you that it makes life so much easier if you can just start that process now. Even if you decide this isn't the year for you and you want to defer, at least it gets you in the hopper and gets you going, because this is quite a process. And then the next year after that is July 7, 2026. And subsequently, April 7, 2026 is the deadline. Although we will accept applications after those deadlines, but not too close up to the July intake. That makes everyone scramble. Next slide, please. So there's also lots of services available to you. We have some just amazing people in the financial aid and awards office, and they'll talk to you about loans and bursaries and scholarships and other funding, even emergency funding. People are really wonderful at helping you find your way. And then there's also the learn.more@royalroads.ca, and the phone numbers here, a toll-free and a local number. To help you decide if this is the right program for you, or answer some more questions, or even put you in touch with me. I'd love to have a conversation with you about this program and is it right for you? Next slide, please. Right, so here's one of our beautiful students with her frogs that she's working on, helping. And I always love bringing in Mary Oliver, the poet, who says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" Which really fits with what we heard from Cedar and what we heard from Andrew and what we heard from Christy, especially about how we might learn more about what's our particular way we're called to serve the world right now, and let this education be one way that helps us discern that path and helps to kind of support and encourage our work for the world. So, Rhett, are there any questions in the chat, or is there anybody?
No, just some links that Andrea put up.
Nice.
And I think we're down to just a few of us left here, but yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think that.
Thank you very much. Yep. And thanks everyone for joining. And as I said, if anyone wants to have a further conversation, I'd love to. So you can just email me. I'm hillary.layton@royalroads.ca, or you can find me through admissions. Okay, well, thanks, Rhett, and thanks, Andrea. And yeah, sorry we had a little bit of a glitch at the beginning with the slides, but we made it through, and lovely to see our students. And yeah.
Definitely.
So thanks so much, you guys. Yeah.
Good to see you all.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Yeah. Bye-bye.